Hello, welcome everyone. Now we are starting our second Brussels Science Apéro. You are all welcome. My name is Tuğçe. I'm from the Minerva team, and my colleague Michaela will be moderating this session this evening together with me.
So thank you very much, Tuğçe, for your nice welcome, and thank you to all these curious people coming here tonight to participate in this event. I'm Michaela, I'm Tuğçe's colleague, and I work for Minerva Communication, which is a communication agency based in Brussels. We are working on the communication and dissemination activities for European research projects, and we are working in this case on agriculture, environment and food issues. So that's why we are here together to moderate this session. It seems that we are quite familiar with this topic, Tuğçe, aren't we? So Minerva is, as I said, a communication agency. Has started last month to do this kind of events. And Minerva is specialized in science communication. So basically what we do is supporting scientists and researchers in disseminating their scientific results. So, but let's keep it very short. I would like to show you a brand new video about Minerva. So like this you can better understand what Minerva is doing and to understand why we are so passionate about science. Okay, well, as you see, we try to bring science outside the labs and the university and to bring it to people.
So science communication is our passion, as you see, and the Brussels Science Apéro is a means to share this passion with you. And the first Brussels Science Apéro was organized again here in April on the issue of aviation, and we had more than 60 participants. We had a very interesting and enlightening discussion with a pilot about airplanes. And now we are in the second Science Apéro. And today our subject is pesticides, and it's really a high issue on the agenda, isn't it, Michaela?
Yeah, indeed. It's a very interesting issue, and there are, in fact, recently many surveys saying that European citizens are more and more concerned about the use of pesticides and the related risk on the human health, especially on a long-term basis. So indeed we are going to have this friendly conversation with Professor Peter Spanoge, is it correct, from the Ghent University, who is going to talk in a very simple language. So today we are not going to use technicism or jargon, so please I invite you all. I know there could be some of you very knowledgeable about pesticides, but please do use a simple language. And today's events, of course, the language will be English, so the questions will be replied in English.
Is it fine like that? Because I changed the micro. Is it okay? Okay. So I want to remind you that this is a quite informal event, so feel free to order your drinks, take something to eat, but also ask your curious questions to our speaker. This session will last for 1 hour and a half, but after that, together with our speaker, we will be all available here to continue the evening. Now I want to introduce our speaker, Professor Peter Spanok. And he's from the University of Ghent. He's the head of the crop protection chemistry laboratory, and also he is a member of the pesticides working group in the Belgian Health Agency. So in this way, he's quite an expert about the pesticide use with the laboratory experiments, but also he's familiar with the discussions about health in the working group. So I think this is a quite good match for us to provide some information. And before giving the floor to him, I just want to make a small exercise to see what kind of awareness we have in our audience. Can you please raise your hands for this question? How many of you are already aware about the pesticide risks? Okay. I was expecting indeed more number. And then how many of you really doing something regularly every day to protect yourself, like washing fruits and vegetables or other protection methods? Okay, so we know what we should do, but we are not very much informed about the risks maybe. So then let's start. Peter, please feel free to introduce yourself if you have other information, and please let us know what do pesticides mean really, and why they are important for every one of us.
Thank you for the nice introduction. I feel myself like a tour winner with having two nice ladies next to me. I hope at the end I will get those two kisses, yes, also. What are we doing? What I'm doing? I'm working at the Department of Crop Protection Chemistry. So this means that we are looking at, we don't call it pesticides, we are calling it crop protection chemicals, because this is getting another kind of impression. We want to put it in a positive way, and we don't want to put it in a negative way. So that's the first point. So what are we doing in lab? We are an analytical lab. So this means if you have these fruits and vegetables before us, you can give it to me, and I can look at it and I can say, okay, there are a lot of pesticides in it, or there are no pesticides in it. That's the first point. So it's an analytical lab. And based on that knowledge, we do some estimations. We say, okay, it's a benefit of using pesticides. You have some profit of it, but you have also some disadvantages. So then we look both sides of the story, and we want to have a good opinion on that. So that's a little bit a small introduction to what we are doing in the lab, and what pesticides are really all about. I think we have a first slide. Okay, yes, we have a first slide. And I would like to ask the people also to raise their hands, and then I look at the people who have never applied the pesticide before. So who has never applied the pesticide before, he raises his hand. You have never applied the pesticide before. Okay, so it's some of us.
May I clarify a bit? So he wants to ask, did you ever yourself apply the pesticide with or without knowing by any product you use or apply? Yeah, a kind of.
So you said you didn't apply a pesticide, so I can have a small question to you. Do you have a dog? Who has a dog? And you applied a shampoo containing an anti-insect product inside it? Yes, you have done it. So this means that you are an applicator of pesticides. So congratulations, you're a colleague of mine. So that's a good story. It's just to think a bit about what are pesticides. It's not only the farmer in the field who is applying a pesticide. It's perhaps a lot of us who is applying daily pesticide. I don't know if you took something to protect yourself. You had gloves. Okay, that's very great. And afterwards, when the dog was walking around, did you take the dog in your arms with gloves, or you didn't?
Not suddenly, no. I wait some hours. I do it, for example, in the evening, and I leave him at night alone.
Okay, so this means you're trusting that after one day the dog is without insecticide anymore. So this means after one day the dog will have again flies and fleas and so on. No, so this means that it was still good. So it was still good working, that product. So this means that you would still have some exposure. But just to say, come back to agriculture, because we are here to food exposure. We are not really here to talk about pesticides which are applied in another way. But this kind of pesticides may contain the same product as a farmer is applying in the field. That's something I want to say. So you believe it's very fine and it's good to apply it on my dog, but afterwards you say, if the farmer is applying, you say, okay, maybe I don't like him to apply that same pesticide. So that's a little bit the problems we have by defending. Okay, I'm not really having I will not talk the whole evening about we need pesticides. I just want to think about it. Okay, pesticides, so you will have a little different ways of contact. So you have the big three groups, and there's also sometimes confusion, but if we talk about pesticides, we have compounds against weeds, and that we call herbicides. There are compounds against insects, we call it insecticides, and compounds against fungi, we call it fungicides. So it's a plant can suffer in the same way as you all can suffer. If you have, you can have a mosquito who is annoying you, and then you are spraying something on your body. Again, you're spraying a certain way of a pesticide on your body, and then you will have that the mosquito will not like you anymore. So at that time, you're also again an applicator of pesticide. So, and that's a little bit different because you're applying it on your body by yourself. So this means that you are already highly exposed. If you get it by food, then it's okay. First it was on the food, and then you prepare the food, and then you will have an intake of the pesticide. So if you have fungicides, insecticides, herbicides, don't be confused. A plant can suffer in the same way as human beings can have problems. So this means that at a certain moment we say, okay, we want to help the plant, and that we say, okay, we call it crop protection. We want to protect the plant, and that we can do in different ways. We can have chemical crop protection, but you can also have biological crop protection. And if you talk about biological crop protection, a lot of people around us are immediately thinking about organic farming. But it's not only the organic farmers who are applying a biological crop protection. It's also the conventional farmer who is applying biological treatment. So this means if a product is working very well in organic farming, then the normal conventional farmer will also say, oh, give me the product, I will apply it also. So this means he will always look to the best solution if the plant in the field has a certain problem. So that's a little bit introduction to pesticides, and the pesticides you're applying on your dog, the pesticides you're applying on your body, and so on, we call it biocides. So we don't call it crop protection chemicals. It's not applied on a plant, it's applied on human beings, it's applied on other surfaces or whatever.
Thank you very much. It's a very good introduction. So we start getting aware of this. And my second question will be about the risks to our health. Can you make another introduction related with the potential risks to our health by being exposed to pesticides in several different ways? In food or environment or water, soil, or with the sprays that we spray to the insects? Can you give us a general idea what is at stake here about health?
It's normal when you have a pesticide that it does some activity. I was talking about biocide. Biocide is a product against biological life. Biocide. Bio is killing bioorganisms. So it's killing a certain way of life. So if you talk about pesticides, then you do something. Or you kill a weed, or you kill a fungi, or you kill an insect. So this means it has some activity against living organisms. That's something you have always to keep in your mind and to take care about it. But when I'm talking to students, then I say, okay, if a farmer is applying pesticides, it's not applying pesticides to kill human beings. It's applying pesticides to kill those insects, to kill those weeds, and the dose to have some impact on those small organisms is much, much more lower than the dose to have an impact on human beings. So this means that from the starting, the amount of pesticides you're applying in the field is not of the same level of having a dose which is killing human beings or which is impacting the people around. So this means so the first point I said, okay, it has some activity. The second point I say, okay, the dose of the pesticides you are applying, so the amount of pesticide you are applying, the amount of pesticides you are exposed to it's much more less than the dose of which you may expect an adverse effect, of the dose of which you can say, okay, now we have a problem to the people. So it's always a little bit thinking, okay, that's also the way that the government is looking at it. Okay, the farmer can use the pesticide. The pesticide is applied in a dose just to kill the weed and the fungi and the insect, but it's not applied in a dose to have two ways of problems. First of all, the farmer who is applying the pesticide may not have a problem, because when he's spraying, he can have a high dose or a lot of droplets falling on his body, so he may have a high exposure. And the second way is that, okay, afterwards the consumer who is eating those products that have been sprayed, okay, they should not suffer also from it. So two kind of evaluations are done when pesticides are applied.
Small question. Not of course from a scientific point of view, but from what I have heard, as I understand from you, maybe three issues are important. First, the dose. Second, I frequently hear short-term and long-term exposure. And third, the type of pesticides. So sometimes we are just generalizing them as pesticides, but there are some of them which are really very dangerous to health, and some of them, when you don't take to a certain dose, they are not as dangerous as the others. So can you make a small clarification about that? Because whenever we see in the media some discussions, we hear these residue levels and those long-term exposures. So it would be great if you can clarify for us this question.
So the dose, I said, okay, there may be some relationship, but also the latest news is that at very low doses we may have also some impact on human beings that were not predicted from normal toxicological studies. So that's first point. Okay, when the observation is there, then we should take action, and then we may say, okay, we take it from the market, that product. But that's something that you can just learn from it by applying it, by looking at it, and by having a good monitoring and control system of what may happen. So that's the first question you had. Then short-term and long-term. Short-term, that's very easy. You apply the product and you feel not well after applying the product, so that will be, everybody will know, okay, when you're applying pesticides and they are feeling not well, okay, then maybe they had not good protection, or maybe they were applying something they should not apply because they are not professionals at all. So this means short-term, that's something you can easily see and easily observe. The long-term effect is something more difficult. because it's not only pesticides people are coming into contact. So this means that a lot of chemicals you will have in your body, people who are smoking around, they will have another way of contamination. So this is a little bit different kind of chemicals, and they all come together in one body, and they may have some cumulative aspects, or they may enhance each other. And just say that pesticides are the only problem that cause the only reason that cause negative impacts. That's something that is a little bit too easy, too simple to say that it's only pesticides which are causing. But that doesn't mean that there was no time that you could say, okay, there's really a long-term effect. And this means, if I look around, every one of us is more than 30, 40 years old. So this means we all were exposed to the old pesticides. So if you're thinking about DDT, if you're thinking about other old products, when I was a child, okay, there was not a legislation as we have today. So this means that still old products were used in very high amounts on the market and so on, and in the farming field. So this means at childhood, I also was perhaps very highly exposed to pesticides. When I get now, after 30 years, some problems, let's hope I will not, then maybe, okay, I will have a long-term effect, but I will have a long-term effect not of the products on the market of today, I will have a long-term effect of the products that were used at that time. So this means it's difficult to foresee, and that okay, I believe the way that legislation is done today in Europe and in Belgium, that they have much more insight in all those kind of side effects, so they should prevent long-term effects for the coming next generation. So that's a little bit, maybe something about that. And I thought you said the third question, but I remember not well. But the type of that's something also very interesting to know. When I'm talking to students, I also say, okay, I'm not a weed, so if I apply a herbicide, so those products are working on photosynthesis. I don't get my energy from the sun. Yes, I get my energy to feel well, but I don't get my energy to have to build up sugars in my body. So this means some herbicides are very specific on specific sites, so they are working very specific on grasses and on plants and so on. So this means those products in general, and then I say in general, you will have some dangerous ones, of course, but in general, if you want to kill your weed, you will have a less effect compared to if you're applying an insecticide. An insecticide, it's mobile, it's flying around, and it has also a nervous system, and the nervous systems of insects is quite comparable to the human brain. So this means that if you're applying an insecticide, it might have a higher impact, a higher risk to your body and to human beings compared to applying a herbicide. And I don't feel myself also to be a fungi, so also some fungicides are very specific, just working on the system of the fungi and not working really on human body and human impact. But that's in general. So most dangerous group is the insecticides, then you have the fungicides, and the lowest exposure is, or the lowest risk is the herbicides. So this means that a lot of you are feeling much better because the highest application you have is killing the weeds on your pavement or whatever. So that's, I don't know, that's a little bit the way it is. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Peter, for this nice explanation. So now I would like to know from you, so what you are doing to protect yourself from pesticides. For example, do you wash, do you cook, do you peel vegetables? Do you have some specific question that you would like to ask to our expert about how can we protect ourselves from pesticides?
Was not actually on how to protect myself, was basically related to the fact you were saying that the long-term effects are very difficult to study on humans. Of course, you got a lot of cross factors, and as you were saying smoking or different lifestyles, etc., could influence the results. But what about animal studies or controlled trials in laboratory? I mean, I'm sure I'm not an expert in the field, but are there any results, from controlled studies that say pesticides are okay on an animal, a rat, or something on
Okay,
long term?
thank you. Can we just collect a couple questions so that our speaker can then reply to all them?
Okay, thank you. I have two very practical questions. The first one, you were talking about, do you wash your vegetables? Well, my question is, how much actually pesticide do you really wash off when you do that? First question. And second question, when you deal with organic vegetables, to what extent are they really pesticides free?
Okay, yeah. Can you repeat? Yeah, for the first question.
The
please.
first question was regarding vegetables, non-organic vegetables, the effect of washing them. To what extent does that really wash off the pesticides, or is it just a marginal effect? And the second question is regarding organic food. To what extent are they really pesticides free?
Okay. We can. Yeah, perfect.
So to answer the first question, be aware that the pesticides which are on the market today, which you can buy in the shop or which the farmer can buy in the shop, that a whole battery of studies has been worked out before they are on the market. So this means that they have done short-term exposure studies, long-term exposure studies. They have done studies on rats, on mice, and whatever. So this means that they have looked at it very carefully before it is on the market. So this means, okay, yes, they do it. So they know it. They know everything before it. Also, there is a difference because I talked about old and new pesticides, because the new pesticides are the pesticides on the market since the year 1991. So this means that all the old pesticides before 1991, and we had about more than 1,000 compounds on the market, so they are not allowed anymore to use without authorization dossier from that pesticide. So this means at 1991, all companies who were producing pesticides had to say, I still want to sell that product. And then the authorities has said to them, okay, then you have to give us a whole dossier with all the effects on it, and then we will evaluate it, and after the evaluation, we will allow you to sell the product and to apply it on the market. So this means it's a whole organization behind it, and a lot of real good scientists who are doing that evaluation to have safe products, not only safe for human beings, but also to the environment. Then another question about you, about maybe first one of organic, because the other one is more related to another topic about washing. Organic products are, what some of you don't know is that also a lot of pesticides are applied on organic products. So this means that they define it in a different way. We call it more or less biopesticides, but in fact these are pesticides they get from nature. So this means that they have a source of copper and a source of sulfur in nature, but copper that's not really a healthy product. So this means you're applying it in organic farm land, and then at that time you're applying really something that destroys not only the fungi, but that destroys all the soil life and so on. So it's a really a high contaminant of the environment. So this means, okay, you're applying copper, but you also have some organic products like pyrethroids. It's coming from a flower, and then you have other compounds, all from natural origin. But it's not because it's from natural origin that it's more healthy, that it's more safe compared to the fact. So this one is organic products have also some kind of pesticides, but they are coming from another environment. So the only distinction is conventional can apply synthetic ones, organic is not allowed to apply synthetic ones. So that's the distinction. Then you have the fact of some people who are selling organic produce, and okay, that organic produce, although they say that it doesn't contain any pesticide, it does. So they detect it. And then you have two possibilities of detection. First of all, it's a man who made a mixture. So he mixed some conventional food with organic food, and then he could sell it, or he can sell it with a higher and better price. Or you can have contamination. This means sometimes I'm saying, okay, it's very fine. A lot of people having a small garden, and they say, okay, I'm going fully organic, and then I say, okay, you live next door to a farmer, so he is spraying for you. So this is something you can have contamination from the neighboring field and into your own garden. So this means some effects may happen, and therefore organic foods can have some very, very, very small amounts of chemical pesticides. So sometimes it's detected. So okay, and then the next point is the point. Okay, so I see the graph already there. Can you wash it off? And okay, so
Maybe because
you introduce
now
it.
we are really entering into more practical things. We heard that there are several types of pesticides, but of course it's not very easy for all of us to search for some information in the net, like which product has which kind of pesticide and whatever. But maybe there are some tips to make a choice. And also me myself, I was disappointed to see the recent EFSA report, the European Food Safety Authority, that they detected indeed some pesticide residues in the organic food. So now we even need to make a choice among the several organic foods. But let's make a small exercise. In the media, we see a lot of lists which are announcing some fruits and vegetables more risky in terms of pesticides, and some others more safer in terms of pesticides. So we prepared two plates for you. One contains some fruits and vegetables which are frequently mentioned as dirty in terms of pesticides, and another one is mentioned as safe. So I just give a very small second for you to think, and I am wondering which of you think that this is the dirty one in terms of pesticides and risky. Can you raise your hands, please? And what about this one? Okay, so there are some people who don't have any idea. Maybe first I can give some information. We can find this list in the US from the Environment Working Group, which announced Dirty Dozen and Clean 15. Maybe you are familiar with this term already, and the European Food Safety Authority also published a report. So this one is risky in these terms. So Peter, can you let us know what is your opinion on this, and maybe you will mention some specific fruits and vegetables?
Maybe first an introduction. I can really good understand why you say, okay, I choose this one, because there's also a difference between local produced product and imported product. So this means, okay, you will not find it in the neighborhood. You will have to travel a lot. So this.
Sorry, did I say which is the dirty one? I said it, right? Okay, so this is the dirty one. Sorry, I'm also very excited about the topic.
Okay, so the solution is this is a dirty one. But I'm just explaining why I agree with you that you may think, okay, this is a dirty one. Because, okay, they say in the list, and after maybe 1,000 or more than how many analyses, they found out that sometimes it's a good one and sometimes it's a dirty one. But I just say, okay, so you have a difference between imported and local produced products. So maybe you have less control on the imported product, and you have maybe more control on this locally produced crops. So this means, okay, some explanation can be given why this is cleaner than this one. If you look at an onion and if you look how it's where it's situated, it's not situated above the ground. So you're spraying your crops. So this means what's contaminated is the green part. It's not the part below the ground. So this means if you're eating an onion, then you will have less contamination. If you look at the kiwi, it's from itself already well protected. But if you're applying a pesticide on the kiwi, it's a hairy skin. So this means that the droplet will not make quite easily contact with the skin of the kiwi. So this means that the droplet stays more on the hairy part. And then if you know how the kiwis are processed before you put them on the market, so many hairs already removed, so many pesticides is already removed before it comes on the market. So this means what happens with the kiwi. But if you now look at this one, the lettuce is standing there, and then you are spraying like that, so he's capture everything. And it's a very wettable leaf, so if you wash it, you will see a lot of water on the leaf. So this means the pesticide makes good contact with that product, and it has a high surface, so this means a lot of pesticides are retained by the lettuce. And then you can give some other explanation, and that's also a little bit the part about how can you solve the problem, how can you reduce the pesticides. This one, you should know at what time you're applying the pesticides. You're applying the pesticides not when it's in this stage, okay, maybe until 3 days before, but you're applying when it's a flower. So this means at that time you're applying it. So what's at that time present? It's not the strawberry, but it's the green part. So this means, I just said it to Tuxi, so I would never bake a pie with the strawberries and the green part on it. I would remove at least the green part out of the strawberry, because this contains the most of the pesticide. So if you remove it, then you will have a much higher reduction of the pesticide. Although they sell it like this, so you should at least know, okay, where is the pesticide? It's not present in the red strawberry, it's present in the green part, so you should be aware about it. But also, the different strawberries are very sensitive. If you buy a box and you put it at home, you will see after 2-3 days that your strawberries are not looking that well anymore. So this means, okay, if you want to prevent, if you want to keep the strawberries very well, also on the market, then you have to apply some products on it. So that's the reason. So one crop is more sensitive compared to another one, and can have a higher problem of disease and pest development compared to the other one. Okay, leek is always also a lot of time sprayed, but again, if you want to solve the problem of the pesticide, then you can cut off the part that is sprayed, and what's sprayed is the green part. So what's one of the solution is just cut off the green part, and then you just eat the white part, because the white part is almost containing no pesticide. So this is a little bit some solutions you can think about. And also the idea about peeling an apple and peeling a pear, okay, if you apply the pesticide will make some contact with the surface, but be also aware that peeling will not solve the whole problem, because some pesticides not stick alone on the surface, but they go inside your apple, and this means you may peel it as much as you want, but you will never be able to remove it from that kind of crop. And maybe then it comes a little bit to the part, can you wash it off? And then I have to disappoint you, because you cannot wash it off. And the reason why you can't wash it off is that if a farmer is applying that crop protection product on the crop, and after a while it's raining, then the rain will wash off your product, and your product will not protect it anymore. So these kind of products are really made to stick on your product and to have a good interaction with your product. And one of the results, if you look at the graph, oh, it's already gone, the graph. Okay, so maybe the previous one. If they go back. Oh, so this one is it's washing. You see, it's the 1, 2, 3. It's a fourth one. You see, they give the highest bar. So you will just have a reduction of about 15 to 20% of the amount of pesticides present. So this means it doesn't solve really the problem. So what you have to do, if you have looked very careful, you have also frying, so frituur and frying. So if you fry everything, then you have a reduction of more than 90%. So then you have solved the problem. So this means all pesticides are not anymore on your crop, but then it's inside the oil of the. There was also a question. What can you say about this one? Because they bought it extra and they didn't know how to put it at this side or at this side. So I just say, okay, if you wash it, you will have already less contact, because if you would know if you put it in the kitchen and you want to wash your cauliflower. People from the kitchen, they know that it's not washed very well. So you have a little bit less contact. And also the time of application is very important. So it will be, the pesticide will be applied before the white cauliflower is developing. So at that time, so what you should not do is to eat the green leaves, but you should eat this one, because this will be less sprayed compared to the green leaves. But I also said the story, then you cut off the green leaves and then you have a rabbit and then you give it to your rabbit, and after you have grown up your rabbit and you eat your rabbit and then you have it again inside your body. Or like for example, if you make a cauliflower soup, one of the other ones is cooking. Cooking has also a very good impact. So if you put your cauliflower in the water and then you cook it, and then a lot of pesticides is going off, and then then it's, instead of being on your cauliflower, it's inside your cooking water. So this means if you throw away your cooking water, no problem, you have your pesticide not anymore present. But if you use your cooking water to make soup of it, then again you have your pesticides with you. So it's not so easy to get rid of them. But be aware, all these products, if they are on the market, they are safe for consumption. So whatever you buy on the market, you should not have any concern about it, because the government and the monitoring system and the control, they should have a look at it and they should say, okay, it's safe for consumption. From the moment you don't agree, then you don't trust the way the government is having its organization. And I know them perhaps a little bit more closely than you know, and I can say I trust the way they are doing.
So Peter, I am very sorry, but first I am disappointed for one fact, and then I am confused. But it's not because what you have said. First one about the leeks, I recently discovered that, I should also use the green parts because they are delicious and I don't waste food. And now I am not feeling the same way, because you said that then there are highest risk of pesticides in the green part. And secondly, I really forgot the second part. No. Anyway, so yes, I'm confused because you said that frying kills, eliminates the pesticide residues, but then frying has always been dangerous for health. So really it's very difficult for one to decide what to do in life for health. But anyway, now I want to skip to another aspect of these pesticides. The natural alternatives to pesticides. And I have a very big curiosity, especially unique to Belgium. The ladybugs. I don't know if you have already noticed the high population of ladybugs in Belgium. In the gardens, in the outside, you see a lot of ladybugs than you see in any other country. So apparently ladybugs are used, yes, it's eating an insect right now, as a natural alternative to pesticides. So that will be my first question, if you find this feasible, and can you explain us a little bit? And I think you also have a question about...
Yes, Peter, indeed, I have a question about other alternatives. What about bioproducts? Sometimes I feel quite unsure going to the supermarket and seeing this very expensive bio food and less expensive conventional food, let's say. So could you give me just a little bit of information about this?
I say, I say don't buy bioproducts because you think that they give you a better safe product, because a lot of studies, I didn't do them by myself, but I'm aware about studies. They say, okay, there's no difference between conventional food and organic food, but please buy organic produce because you believe in the agricultural system, because you say, okay, it's nice that the farmer has so much knowledge about how he has to crop in the field, and maybe also some bioproducts may have a higher biodiversity, may have different ways of tastes and so on. So it's you have a much bigger choice if you buy organic compared to if you buy conventional. But don't say, okay, I will pay more because I think it's more safe products, because if you think about that, it would be not fair. I think that they can sell more healthier products on the market to the people who is able to buy those products. So this is not the idea about organic farming. The organic farmers should make publicity in the way that, okay, they say, I'm able to crop it in a different way, and my products are produced in a more sustainable way or whatever. So it should be seen in this way, and it should not be seen in a way that it's more healthy to buy organic, I think.
Okay, thank you, Peter, for your answer. Now I'm more, it's more clear now. Okay, so now I would like to talk about also, because now we talk just about food, about the health issue and the risks, but what about the environment? So pesticides has also impacts on the environment. So before listening to Peter talking about this, have you further question about the environmental risk that pesticides can have? Yes, please.
I have a practical question. It's still related to what you were saying about the fact that washing fruits basically doesn't remove pesticides. So or probably remove only a part. So I've always been told when I was a child that probably was wrong, totally wrong, but that a lot of nutrients like vitamins and whatever are close to the peel of the apple or whatever. Maybe it's totally wrong. So I'm wondering, in the end, it's worth peeling the apple or it's worth eating also the peel? Apart the fact that it's annoying peeling the apple.
Okay. I was in a Dutch journal in January, and there was somebody saying the same problem and so on, and then the journalist, he put the words into my mouth. The other one was washing and doing everything on his apple, and then the journalist said, in contrast to Peter Spano, who is doing nothing. And this was so a little bit, okay, it's reflecting my trust in the way products are put on the market. It's also related to your question, okay, yes, if you look at it, the vitamins are much higher close to the skin compared to inside the apple. So that's the first observation, you're fully right. But then you have to think how much vitamins are in the total apple. So they are not only close to the skin, they are distributed across the apple. So from inside the apple you have a low amount of vitamins, close to the skin you have a high amount of vitamins. But they are totally in your full apple. So what you're removing is not removing all the vitamins of the apple, you're just removing a small high part of the apple, but this means at the end you still have enough vitamins in the whole apple if you compare it with not eating an apple, you know. So this means, okay, you will still have enough vitamins after peeling the apple. So this means that no problem with that idea. But indeed, okay, it's situated close to this peel. Yes.
So we have another question here, another there, so we can collect both questions and then another one there. So, yes, please.
Yeah, it's regarding impact on the environment. Obviously, we use more pesticides as we go, more and more food produced, and it will produce, obviously in the future, this trend will continue. So, and you mentioned you can basically not get rid of pesticides. You wash them off, you eat them, so they always remain with us. So what does that mean for the long term? Do they just disappear, mix up, or we just continue to build them up to the point where it becomes dangerous? And the follow-up question is science interested to make pesticides that, for example, degrade after a certain time and break up and disappear?
Okay, so maybe we can collect another question there and then there.
I would like to know, besides what are the risks, we understood that there are a lot of risks with the pesticides for the environment and for health. But since I'm not expert at all of this problem, I would like to know really concretely what are the effects of exposure to human health. What are the symptoms? What should we know about it?
Okay, another question here, please. And then
It was actually a question relating to what my neighbour asked about vitamins. How about steam cooking? Does that remove pesticides, or does that actually keep them on the vegetable?
okay, we can have another question, or yeah, we can pick the last question and then we sum up.
Yeah, a slightly different angle. We're talking about what it does to human beings, but another discussion that I see on papers is what it does to plants. I keep hearing that the elimination of crop rotation and intensive agriculture has generated the need of using more and more powerful antibiotics, pesticides, etc., and that there is and the pathogen elements develop some resistance to that, so that the pharmaceuticals discover stronger and stronger products. Now, some of the objections to this is that we are heading in a direction where we're not going to have a pesticide that is going to be able to protect a plant that is not protecting itself anymore naturally. So what's your view on that?
Okay, we can, yeah.
So maybe it will be good to combine a couple of questions. Maybe one issue is what is the effect of pesticides on human health? Maybe you expect to hear some specific diseases or some specific symptoms that you can mention, and its relation with the long-term exposure, as in one of the questions. And also we can mention here about steam cooking. So after that we can cover the rest. Yeah.
I'm not really a medicine and so on, so that's not really my core business. So what's the effect of pests on human health? That's the same you can read in newspapers and in articles as I can do. The highest risk is what I started a little bit my talk with is not so my department is more doing the analytical part, is looking at exposure level. So that's my job. So this means how high is the exposure. Then you can say, okay, is it too high or is it too low or whatever. Then we have to look at the toxicology, and that's not my background. So I'm not working on that. What I know about exposure is that it's not exposure by consuming fruits and vegetables, but the highest health problems is coming from indoor application of products against flies, against mosquitoes and things like that. So also wood treatment and wood preservatives. So this kind of when you are painting your garden house and things like that. So when you're protecting this kind of products, then you have the highest exposure. So the highest exposure can end up with the highest toxicity. But anyway, there's now is a legislation that makes a distinction between the products you can buy in a shop as as a non-professional, so as a particular, and other products that are just allowed for professionals to be used. So this means it should solve that problem.
Actually, maybe I can help to structure this answer. We just read together with you that some farmers or those who are applying pesticides are getting Parkinson. So I think the biggest fear among us is, will I have Parkinson? Will I have Alzheimer because I consume fruits and vegetables and there are a lot of pesticides in it? So can you clarify, is this risk, I mean, of course you cannot know because long-term exposure, you should look different criteria. But, I mean, can we say that by consuming fruits and vegetables that have pesticides, or does it carry a risk of these kind of serious illnesses? Is there a proven research on that, please?
So concerning the issue of Parkinson, I talked with the number one expert in Belgium, and I asked him, okay, what do you believe about that? And it was a French issue, it was not a Belgium issue. So this means it was related to a farmer who got Parkinson and was very well, it seems to him, very well in defending his own story. So I don't know. I cannot evaluate that part. So that's the first point. The second point is also that he says it's related to one specific product, and I think, if I remember well, it was paraquat. And that product is not on the market anymore today. So this means it's again what I said before. 30 years ago, the farmer was applying so much unknowing about the danger. And I think today, I hope today, farmers have a better knowledge that they should take care about everything they are applying. So this is something we learn by applying it.
Okay. And the other two questions related more on the scientific issue. One about whether pesticides are changing the structure of plants and we need more and more pesticides, and do we come to a point that we cannot return back? And the other one, so we cannot we remove pesticides? Do we accumulate them every day? And are scientists doing something to make a research on eliminating these pesticides?
I think there was also a third question about steam cooking. I will first say the steam cooking recently, so one of my thesis students was looking at the new way of cooking in the kitchen, and that was not only steam cooking, it was also microwaving, it was also grilling, woking, I don't know, I hope I say it well. So about steam cooking, if you talk about vitamins which are kept by steaming your products, so this means also your pesticides are kept in a good condition by steaming it. So it was a reduction of 10 to 20%. So that's the first point. The second, microwaving is just a movement, so it doesn't do anything with the pesticide. It stays there. So that's not a solution, and grilling and woking is much too short to have an effect. It's only 10 minutes or 5 minutes at a high temperature, but it should be a long-term processing instead of a short-term. About your question about, okay, maybe I didn't clarify. If you have a certain color picture or whatever, and you put it on your wall, after a while you will see that the color is not anymore the color as it was before. It's because that the sunlight was shining on it and so on. So we call it organic molecules. Pesticides, we call it organic pesticides. So from the moment you have produced, they start degrading. So at a certain time you will have totally, and then we call it mineralization. This means that the original molecule has been turned into water and has been turned in CO2 and has been turned in degradation products. So this means that it's not that persistent as you think it should be. And the best pesticides are those pesticides that you have a problem in your field and you apply the pesticide, then the pest and disease is treated, and after 2 days and 3 days your pesticide has disappeared. But this means, okay, the less persistence are seen to be very well from a part of the consumer, but from the part of protection of your crop, it's very bad, because after 3 days you should apply again. So this means that that's the point about applying pesticides. So they disappear. They are not they have in the authorization dossier, they have also a border, or they say it should be not that persistent that it stays for more than 100 days in the environment. So it has to degrade. So it has to disappear. And then your question. What? Yeah. But there are some systems that you can enhance that kind of degradation. So this means that you will have some solutions for that, or you use very big sunlight, or you use some microorganisms present in soil which can destroy the pesticide, which can use it as a nutrient for themselves to live from. So they use it as a food part. So as you and me are consuming food, so they use a pesticide. And then I had the last question about, or not the last, I don't know. I had a question about the resistance development of pesticides. First of all, if you think, okay, they are very heavy ones, we need to develop more and more powerful pesticides. I don't. It's the first time I'm confronted with this kind of view. So let's say the old pesticides. I was just talking the DDT. It destroyed everything. Okay, you could spray and you could treat everything. So that's the one we have in the past. Today, the development is very specific one. So this means they can make a distinction between, and then maybe it's also a hot topic nowadays. They can make a distinction between. You have different kind of insects, and bees are also insects, so they can make, okay, they can just kill that other insect that is causing the problem, and they are not killing the bees the bees who coming after that. So they are very specific ones. And then, okay, you have resistance development, but it's not in a profit of the company that you have this kind of resistance like you have with antibiotics. You can have the same problem in the field. So therefore, industry is educating the farmer that he should not apply every day or every week the same product. So he has to avoid the development of resistance. So by using different kind of compounds and by using combinations and so on. So this means there are also some solutions to prevent to have a high development of resistance. So the big dangerous pesticide, they are, I think, they are from the market. If they are so powerful, okay, sometimes we think, okay, it's a pity we cannot use that pesticide anymore. It's taken from the market, and farmers are complaining for that. So, okay, but anyway, for another reason, they are taken off from the market. So it's not so that view about, okay, very powerful pest. I don't have it, but maybe you may have it. I don't mind.
Well, I would like to take the advantage of having you here, Peter, to ask you one question about environment. So you mentioned bees before. I read many articles recently about this 2-year ban recently approved by the European Commission to some kind of pesticides which are considered to be toxic to honeybees. So can you please tell me more about this issue?
The issue is not really. Okay, the issue is that the bees from the years 1980s are normally you have after the winter time you will look at your bee colony, and the bee colony is still alive. So after winter time, from times to times, you have that the colony is not didn't survive the winter. So in the 1980s you had about 5% to 10% of the colonies which are died after winter time. But then it increased from 5% to I think about 20% this year, so 20 to 30% of all the colonies after winter time. If you are a beekeeper and then you open again your colony, then you see, okay, all my bees are dead, or suddenly the whole colony is not there anymore. So there are two kind of problems, and then they started to looking to get an explanation for that, what happened. And then it's not myself who gave some solution or who gave some answers, but in general they say, okay, you have certain problems about that, and pesticides are one of the problems. In the first case, you have the herbicides, which are killing all the flowering weeds. So they say, okay, there are no flowers anymore, so the bees don't have any food anymore, so they will not be able to survive the winter time. So that's the first solution, they say, and then the second one is you have a mite, and the mite came over from a certain part of the world, and it covered the whole of Europe. So this means it's another insect or a kind of insect who is killing the bees. So this means it's also a problem. And then on the third place you have pesticides, insecticides, and it's not all the insecticides. It's, they took out of the amount of insects, they took 3 products out of it. Okay, they may have an impact, yes, but they don't rank it on the first place. They say in the first place you have to look for a better food consumption, and you have to provide more flowers in the field and things like that, because the environment evolved from being high biodiversity to more monoculture. But that's also an explanation I have some difficulties with, because if I think a little bit at the back, it's not since the 1980s that we started to have those monocultures. So this means, okay, what increased a lot are the villages and the mans who are having their houses, building houses. So maybe there's no place anymore for the bees anymore in the environment. I don't know. That's something very difficult. But I'm not doing that kind of this.
Okay. So let's say there are many factors involved in this
Yes.
topic. So okay, perfect. So we have a question here.
Yes, hello. Concerning the old pesticides, the older ones, the ones pre-91, in other words, what I was wondering about is what impact do these older pesticides, if they've been forbidden, there must be a reason. So by now we should know what problems they can come from them. Such as DDT. We all know that DDT has been found everywhere in the food chain, for instance. What is the impact for people of, I was born in the 60s, for instance, somebody who's grown up in the 70s, who has absorbed these pesticides? What is known nowadays about these problems?
So, this means when we take a part of your fat, then we will be able to find yes, some DDT inside your body. So this means that's the case. Okay, but the highest problem is nowadays it's not. So it's they call it bioaccumulation. So this means you give it from mother to child by the mother milk and so on. So this means it's for the coming 2-3 generations you will still be able to find DDT in people, in me and in you and so on. So. But what's maybe a bigger problem today is it's not that we have seen that it's stored in human bodies, but that we are not able to stop them, because in countries like Ethiopia they still apply a lot of DDT. So this means they use DDT not for protecting their crops, but they use it against mosquitoes. So this means in the small huts they are applying a lot of DDT, and the people are living there, and the people are walking around and are sleeping in the DDT. So this means, and the DDT is there for more than 30 years. So when I was talking about half lifetimes, less than 100 days, so that's now the new rule. But in the past, DDT was very persistent, so it stays in the environment for more than 30 years, at least for more than 30 years. So this means for the coming generation we'll still have DDT. But if we are not using it anymore, so suddenly it decreases. So that's the observation. So let's hope. But what we should do now is look at some other countries, and maybe some of you like to travel around, and then they are quite adventurous, and then they go to the local market, and then I'm thinking about African countries and about the South of America and so on. They are still applying those old products everywhere in the field and so on, because these are the best products. So in contrast to his opinion, okay, those old products are working very, very, very well, and that's what they need. They are not concerned about human safety. They are concerned about food on the table. That's the first concern they have in these countries. But then if you are very adventurous, then you go over, and then I was sitting once with someone in the train, and he was telling, okay, I'm eating organic food every day in the week, and then he was traveling to a country, I think it was Mozambique or something like that, and then I said, just one day and all your effort you have done for the last 65 last days, it's done for nothing, because you will have so high consumption of pesticides in your food that you will be exposed to it in a very high level. So that's something people are not aware about. So this means that if you talk about food safety, then you should not make the borderline around Europe, or not the borderline around Belgium, not around Europe, but you should look a little bit more broader. So you should
Peter,
help the world.
can you mention certain geographies or maybe countries that we should be more careful about this levels of residues, or I hear that there are illegal pesticide markets, so do you have any advice to us that we should be more careful in certain countries? Or
I'm not a travel agency, so
no, at least
I cannot,
some area, maybe not specific countries, but
I think if you think about it, you know the answer by yourself.
okay. So this means that after the end of the event, in the informal conversation, we will get the answer of this, and I will tell you, don't worry. So are there other questions? We are coming to the end. So we see one question here.
Hello, thank you for the event. My question is more practical. How to protect ourselves at home or in the businesses, because I have a cafe, and I would like to know what is the best way to clean from this kind of chemicals. Should I use additional chemicals to clean them, or more natural sources like I heard like citric acid, like lemon juice, or what is your opinion on that? Or vinegar? Or
So one of the first. So if you compare consumption of food with application of pesticides, so we say that the way of exposure, and it's exposure. So how to help yourself, it's to avoid exposure. So this means, okay, in food you can do something, but you will not be able to learn it by heart what you have to do with lettuce and what you have to do with all those products. So I would not say don't think about that. But if you're applying the pesticide, like the lady with the dog with the shampoo and so on, be aware about that kind of exposure. If you're applying it in your garden, I see a lot of people walking around without gloves, in a short trousers, in a short shirt. So this means, what's the highest way exposure? It's not the mud, so it's not inhalation, because most of the pesticides are not that volatile. So this means when it's not volatile, it doesn't come in the air. So when it's not coming in the air and you are breathing, so then it doesn't come inside your body. So, but what's the highest exposure and what's the highest problem? It's your hands. It's just like you have in medicine. You can put something if you have a wound, and then you put something on. So it goes directly inside the skin. It goes directly inside your body. With the pesticide, it's just the same way. So if you want to avoid it, then wear gloves, wear long trousers if you apply it, wear long clothes, and after that you put it in the washing machine and wash it away. So that's the first answer, I think. So because we compared it, consumption of pesticide compared to application, it's a factor of 100 in difference. So this means you will do as much as you want, but afterwards you're applying pesticides, then it's an effort for nothing. Because if you're eating organic food and afterwards you don't know that you're applying pesticides, and then you have done a lot, but you have not saved your life in that way.
Okay, good. Are there any other questions? Yes, one here. Yeah.
Yes, I have a question. I'd like to know just who are the main producers of these pesticides? What countries are the main producers? What countries are the main producers?
If you have seen the march and this weekend, I think it was against Monsanto, and Monsanto was in Antwerp. If you notice that, maybe you don't, but so we are. Then Belgium is one country. So and then if you know some, we have some big pesticides, but you have so many pesticides, more than 200, about 300 different compounds. So this means Belgium has some compounds in the pocket, but also France and also Germany and then in the US. So this means you will have a lot of different places where pesticides are produced. Yes. Developing countries are the biggest users of illegal products coming from China, and these are then the generic ones, and the products you can put question marks behind it. But China is a big one of generic products, so they say, okay, the patent has been passed, and then China say, okay, we can produce it, and we put it on the market for half of the price as the brand marks. Yes. But we are a good one. We are producing quite nice products. Yes, good ones.
Any other questions? Oh, sorry. Okay, so we are coming to the end. By the way, I see the waiter coming. So if after hearing all these dangers and after steam cooking and everything, if you want to order more, looking for a waiter, it's there. So I think you have a question. Are there any other questions from the audience? Okay.
Well, I read an article about DDT found in penguins. Is it possible? I mean, how can be found? It was like, I think, a couple of years ago, saying that it could be possible this.
Yeah, of course. So this is one of the problem. I just said it stays there for more than 30 years, so in the environment. And one of the ideas I have is to look once, because DDT is still applied in Africa, and sometimes you have desert storms, which brings the soil at very high levels in the atmosphere, and then you have the dust which is falling out of the air, and then you see that your car is full of dust, and the train and so on is full of dust. I was thinking, okay, maybe one day I will collect all that dust and I will analyze it in the lab to know if DDT comes from Africa to our countries again, because this is a very high level of transport, and so it happens. So the place you're applying it here, then it goes upstairs, and then it travels around the world. So this means also penguins are contaminated, and they have a really good fat layer, so they are very well protected against cold. So this means they have a good part of their body. They can collect the DDT very well inside. So yes, it's case. It's a long-term transport, but normally yes, it should be avoided. You should not be aware anymore today. But this is contamination from the past. We have to live with. Yes, I don't know.
I have a I've heard that you mention illegal products, so illegal pesticides. And you mention also China producing half price because they got the patent, or the patent is over, they produce half price, so that is not illegal. But are they producing also illegal things and distributing them? And then, what do you know about the control? If there is a illegal seller, there is an illegal buyer, or a buyer that buy illegal stuff and distribute that and put that on their plantations and so on. So how is the control is done?
So first of all, when I talk about illegal, I say it's non-authorized. It's not because it's non-authorized in Europe and in their countries, it may be authorized for use. So it may still be allowed for use. So like DDT is still allowed to be used in Ethiopia, but it's not allowed to be used on farming crops, but it's allowed to be used inside the house for indoor treatment against malaria. So against mosquitoes. That's the first point. How is the control? So the control is very difficult in this kind of countries, because they don't have the equipment to analyze it, and they don't have the knowledge to analyze it. So then people come over to my lab to learn how they have to do that kind of analytical work. But if you don't have the money to buy those equipment, and if you don't have the control, it's also very difficult, because in this kind of countries you have small farmers directly from the farm to the market to the consumer. And here in Belgium I say, okay, it's a totally different system. You have from the farmer to the auction, from the auction to the local shop, from the local shop to the consumer, from the auction to the company who is making some processed foods from it. So it's a long chain. So because all food comes together to one place, then at that place you can easily take samples and you can easily do the control. But in this kind of countries, okay, it goes all to local markets. So at what time you should do the control, and after you have done the control and after you have seen it's not safe for consumption, then you're too late, because then everything is already consumed, because it's not put in refrigerator and things like that. So it's a difficult point to say, okay, how does it has to be organized in these kind of countries? Illegal use is a problem. But yes, okay, at that time I say at these locations is not the problem of having food safety, but it's the problem of having food. So that's the first problem. And if they know, okay, my pesticide is doing a good job, then they like it very much. And if they can buy a cheaper one, and even the cheaper one is not, so it's not only having a pesticide, it's also knowing what's the disease you have, what's the problem you have on your crop. Because you can apply an insecticide and it's a fungi who is causing the problem. So it's also a recognition of the problem on your crop. Do I need to give it more water to have a good crop, or do I need to even give it more nutrients or whatever to have a healthy crop? That maybe is also a problem. But they are applying pesticides without exactly knowing what to do. And okay, it's the case. Therefore, institutes like ours are there to invite them to come over. But okay, that's something. Yes, it's an answer to your question.
And I understand that the countries, let's say, not in Europe, let's say, are dangerous, and we are importing fruit, potentially dangerous.
In those countries, there's also maybe for the local people, because small farmers, so you have a lot of small farmers, the first problem for them is not the consumption, it's the way of application. Like I just said, okay, it's much higher exposure to application because the pesticides is falling, just they are throwing or they are mixing with their hands and things like that, all those kind of issues. And they are, instead of having a spraying machine, they are doing like that, and they are spraying with their hands. And so that's all the kind of way of applying pesticides, also all in a way that you would never think about they do in the field. So that's the first problem. Is it more dangerous? Yeah, I don't know. If you and me are there, it's just once in our life, or it's maybe at that special place. If you're going every week, then you have a higher exposure. So there's a difference between being just exposed for one time and exposed. They call it acute exposure, so just once, and chronic exposure, so a daily exposure. If you would live there daily, then I would say, okay, I would not choose to live there. If I was you, I would not live there. So that's my personal point of view. But if you are just traveling once a year or a small period at a certain place, then okay, then it's fine. Then you can survive it. So don't be that afraid about it. It's not. We have to live, and maybe the joy of seeing some environment over there is much higher than the thought. Okay, I'm now exposed to pesticide. Don't do that if you're on vacation. So please enjoy that and don't think about your food. It would be very uncomfortable if you turn back.
That's a very good point. Yes. Otherwise. So, are there any further questions before we close the session? Okay. You? Okay. You are welcome.
I would like to ask to everyone if someone is going to change something tomorrow in the way of eating or buying food. To have advice for me.
What worries me? So what worries me is that from what you just said, I don't know if it works. From what you just said, it's not okay to eat the pesticides on the products, but we cannot clean them off. So we do eat them. We are exposed to them. Probably there are norms and measurements, and EU is taking care of us. And at the same time, I didn't get it from you that the bio products are all that much better. You don't know what I'm trying to say, so what are we supposed to do?
I can say what I do, and I don't make the distinction. No, so that's my point of view. And okay, I know you can put question marks, but on the other hand, okay, you should also have some trust that it has been, that it's organized in a good way, and that's something I know better than you know, because I'm more close to the government.
It's just like with any
Yes, but therefore we have also some good non-governmental organization who are saying, okay, stop, be aware, and things like that. So this put a stop on everything, and okay, they have to fight against each other, and okay, there is an evolution. Okay, each day they make choices, and each day, okay, of course, it would be a little bit strange if a company is selling a product that kills people, then okay, please stop. Then we have enough weapons organization that they don't have to do it in that way. So normally they are, when they put something on the market, and when there is a risk or whatever, this means that the risk has not been measured or observed before. From the moment there is a problem, they will take it from the market for sure. Now you have a problem with the bees, so they take it from the market. So the whole companies, they are really in the hair, and they don't know what to do, but they have a big business lost in those crops. So this means, okay, they decided there's something, and okay, if there's something, then they take it off from the market. So be aware that everything here is on the table. Also this one, maybe not listed very well, but this one should be safe for consumption. So I'm looking very I want to start with the strawberries. So anyway, so they are looking very fine. So yes, but if you want to wash it, I think okay, you can wash off the dust, but you cannot wash off the pesticide. So that's a point.
Peter,
so
at least it gives a certain relief to hear that you think, as a scientist, the vegetables and fruits in the market, they are safe. And also what you mentioned, that it's important to eat fruits and vegetables, because in this era everybody, as you mentioned before in one of our conversations, everybody is consuming proteins. And but it's also important to continue consuming fruits and vegetables because of their benefits to us. Actually, myself, I have still a lot of questions to ask, although I asked a lot before this session to him. So I invite all of you to continue this conversation. Let's end this session, but continue our conversation with our drinks. And I forgot to mention, we have a cupcake stand there. If you are hungry, you can get a bite from there. So thank you very much for participants for all your questions. All your questions, they were very valuable. I didn't thank separately, but they were very interesting. Thanks. And to our speaker, thank you very much. It was very interesting to hear from you. And yeah, please.
So thank you all for the nice event. It's the first time I'm sitting in this kind of environment, but it's also one of the first events they are organizing. So the first time she phoned with me, I said, okay, what would be that? And it's in fact it's really a little bit strange, because I said, okay, I don't want to be Santa Claus sitting here, and then anyway, at the end I had to. So maybe let's stop. Okay, I say it's safe for consumption, but okay, there's a zero risk is never. So this means when tomorrow is something in the news, and okay, it may happen, so I can't help that.
Thank you very much for the information. And I would like to remind you that we will have a third Science Apéro on 19th of June, again here. And this time the subject will be on brain and the effects of the environment on our mood. So this time we kidnapped two more scientists, Peter, we called them. One is a neurologist and the other one is a psychologist. So I expect that session to be very interesting too.
So thank you very much, Peter. It was very,
Tuce,
very
I think we have here our
yes, we have
speakers.
here our next speaker, by the way. Hi. So I hope you enjoyed this session, and I hope to see you again for the next one with Bianca. And I also invite you to share your comments with us. We have this nice and original evaluation form here. So it's just 4 small questions. 1 is bad and 5 is very good. So please, 5, fulfill it. And by the way, there are 2 colleagues of mine, Gwen here and Irene there. If you want to leave your email address to be updated for the next event, and also if you want to leave your business card, could be great to keep in touch. So thank you very much to all of you. Thank you,
And
Tuce.
very small reminder, you will find all the photos from today on Facebook. And please, those who registered on our event page, also like our Facebook page to get the updates about future events. Thank you very much. It was a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
I love Minerva.